Croeso, welcome to Recovery Now Radio, which is brought to you in conjunction with Adferiad Recovery and Living Room Cardiff. Adferiad Recovery is a registered charity offering specialist support to those with co-occurring substance misuse and mental health conditions. Living Room Cardiff provides ongoing support and aftercare as a community-based recovery centre that has an all-addictions approach, including gambling, alcohol, drugs, both prescribed and illicit, sex, eating disorders, gaming, etc., or any other harmful behaviour. We welcome anyone who needs confidential support in taking those first important steps towards change and recovery. Family members and friends are also catered for. For further details, please see the Adferiad Recovery website, www.adferiad.org.uk and www.livingroom-cardiff.com. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you so much.
You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want. But you must try, try and try, try and try. You'll succeed at last.
Welcome to Recovery Now Radio. Let's recover together.
Persecution you must fear. Win and lose, you've got to get your share. Got your mind set on a dream. You can get it, don't hold it may seem now.
Recovery Now Radio, coming to you from the living room and Adferiad.
You can get it if you really want, but you must try, try and try, try and try. You'll succeed at last. I know it.
Welcome to Recovery Now Radio, coming to you from the living room and Adferiad. My name is Jo, and our guest today is Chip. Welcome, Chip. How are you today?
I'm in very good shape, thank you. Well, not good shape, but I'm in good form. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, you've very kindly come in to talk to us today about your addiction issues.
Sure.
But before we do that, I want to get straight into your first song, which is The Beast in Me by Nick Lowe. Why did you choose this one?
It absolutely epitomizes addiction and my addiction and how I was able to come out from time to time and put on a good front, but actually all the time lurking within is this beast that still continues to lurk inside me. And I find it completely exemplifies addiction for most practically everybody. Yeah. And I've always loved this song. And I love it very much.
Let's see what it's like.
Yeah.
God help the beast in me. The beast in me has had to learn to live with pain and how to shelter from the rain. And in the twinkling of an eye might have to be restrained. God help the beast in me. Sometimes it tries to kid me that it's just a teddy bear, or even somehow managed to vanish in the air. Then that is when I must beware of the beast in me that everybody knows. They've seen him out-dressed in my clothes, patently unclear if it's New York or New Year. beast in me.
You're listening to Recovery Now Radio. Let's recover together. That was The Beast in Me by Nick Lowe. Chip, I've had a little look at your brief that you sent us with regards to your story and your addiction problems during your life. First of all, I'd like to take you back to your childhood, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's where it all began.
And to discuss your time in a boarding school and what happened to you there. Would that be okay if you told us a bit about that?
Absolutely fine. I come from a seemingly very privileged background, although within that household there was a lot of very odd stuff going on. And I was sent away to boarding school at 6 3/4 without even knowing where I was going. And during my time there, I was sexually abused by my piano teacher. But the bizarre thing was that by that stage in my life, I was already used to being abused by a member of my family. So it just continued a process of kind of crossing my sexual boundaries that had been there all the time. And I kind of, everybody knew it. I think in those days, it was probably much more common. I don't know whether it is, but it certainly was something that at the time caused me a lot of conflict. And I think had a much bigger impact on my life than I like to imagine. And I'm absolutely sure it's one of the factors that led to future addiction. Yeah. It was very traumatic. It was very traumatic. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. As an abuse survivor, and I'm in recovery myself, I can totally identify with that. And you mentioned feelings of being unworthy and unwanted. And I think those scars, like they carry through your life, don't they? When you go through something like that, they go right throughout your life with you. Is that how you felt? Definitely.
I mean, I'm a great believer that kind of what happens to you in your first 15 years pretty much lives with you and forms you as an individual. And without doubt, at 15, I felt perverted because of all my sexual experiences. I hasn't yet got to terms with the fact that my responses were physiological responses rather than any desire to have them happen to me. I'd grown up in a household where you did not get touched or spoken to. You just didn't. I did feel very unloved, and I felt completely lost, very shy, lacking in confidence, and not in great shape. An absolute prime candidate for somebody to discover drugs. I left home as soon as I could. I didn't even go back home. I had it was very odd. I got shipped up to Neath for quite a lot of time to live with my grandparents because there was one of my brothers was mentally unstable and he was institutionalized at 9 and never spoken about again. But I think just generally feeling absolutely no confidence. It wasn't just confidence, no sort of I know self-esteem is quite a modern term, really, and I think when I was that age, people wouldn't have known what I was talking about, or I wouldn't have known what you were talking about. But there's no doubt at all that I came into that stage of my life just lost completely and feeling very, very lonely and unwanted. Yeah, it's really quite something that you're here talking to us about these things, because obviously this radio station is sending out a message of hope across the world, really, and it only takes somebody to hear something for that seed to be planted. So I just want to thank you about talking to us about those things we've just discussed. I've always found that once I've done a lot of work on it and I've done a lot of therapy on it, but I do find that by talking about it, people do feel more able to come forward. And I think the more that happens, the better. Absolutely. Just moving on to your next song now. It's Corrina by Big Joe Turner. Tell me about this song. This is off a record called The Greatest Rock and Roll. It's a really, really old record, but it was bought by my father. It was about the one good thing he did for me was buy this record from America. He traveled to America, came back with this LP, and it's always been my favorite album. And this is probably my favorite track from the album, but it always reminds me of my father. But all those, a good time in my life. Yeah. Excellent.
Corrina, Corrina, where you been so long? Corrina, Corrina,
You're listening to Recovery Now Radio. Let's recover together. And that was Corrina by Big Joe Turner. We're still with Chip today, and we talked about some quite traumatic things before that song. Moving on a little bit, Chip, you describe being introduced or introducing yourself to substances and taking drugs to help the way you felt. Could you describe when you first started doing that for us?
I started doing that as soon as I arrived in London after leaving school, and within about 4 days of arriving there, I hit London just before the summer of love, and people were starting to smoke dope. I think it's clear that it was absolutely my choice to do it. I didn't feel under any peer pressure to do it. I wanted to I was inquisitive. I wanted to know what it was like. And of course, as soon as it was only smoking dope, but as soon as I discovered what it was like, bang, I found something that quietened up the voice inside me, quietened that voice that said I was rubbish, just calmed me out completely. And I was, from that day onwards, I thought, this is what I want to do. And being the sort of person that I am, I thought, well, I'm not going to just do this on Fridays. I want to do this every day. And so that's what I did. And very quickly discovered that there were other drugs that did it even better and quicker and stronger. And within 18 months was intravenously using heroin. And it was a quick learning curve. But I just wanted that distance and that voice inside me to shut up, and I found it in drugs. And it was like, to me, I felt I'd found the key to life. The way to get through life is to, and I had a little bit of money at the time, and so the first 18 months were quite good fun, really. As I said, it was the summer of love the next year, and it was quite enjoyable. And all drugs are great to begin with. I mean, there's anybody would be lying if they didn't say that they weren't great to begin with. But then within 2 years, I was starting to feel really rough in the mornings, and then I was starting to realize that actually there's a price you pay for this pleasure, and that price is starting to feel withdrawal symptoms, and then having to chase, and tolerance building up, and the habit getting bigger, and everything, and all the kind of things that go along with trying to find money because my money had run out. So all the usual sort of behavior that goes along with trying to find the money for what was at the time about £100 a day. A lot of crime. Wasn't a big moral jump for me. I'd been an acquisitive little thief all my life. Waking up every morning, not having any gear, having to graft and get some money together, feel good for about 20 minutes, and then the whole process starting all over again, and kind of just trapped in a cycle that I could see no way out of. And even though some sort of obvious things started to happen quite early on, I got arrested, all the sort of things that you would normally expect normal people to go, oh my God, I think something's going on here. For me, it did exactly the opposite. It kind of gave me kudos within my peer group. Chip's been in court a few times, he's got out, and, just getting a bit of a reputation and enjoying that, and enjoying the fact that I had kind of developed a persona of being a bit of a badass, and, could take my drugs and knew where to get them, that sort of thing. I really, I embraced that. And, and I guess the next 4 or 5 years were kind of just plodding along, not working, but it started to, there were things happening then that, as I said, people died. There was a lot of heroin overdoses in those days in Piccadilly and Subway 4. Anybody familiar with being an addict in London in the 60s and 70s? There were a lot of people dying, and it was, you'd think I'd pay attention. I myself, did the classic thing of taking a mixture of drugs, not knowing, do you want some drugs? Yes, please. Put the hand out. Don't care what it is. Just put it in my hand. I'll take it. And ending up on a life support machine for about 4 days. And, rather than think, oh my God, this is a wake up call. You've really got to do something here. Actually, discharging myself, taking my medical notes down the dealer and going, look what's happened to me. Look at my drama. Could I have some free gear, please? So kind of nothing was getting through to me. Nothing was because by that stage, I don't know, I've been at it 8-10 years. That was part of the, that felt like part of the kind of the game, part of the drug game, part of the drug war, that you had to keep going and doing that sort of thing. And you didn't sort of pay attention, because that was happening to everybody. It wasn't unusual at all. Go around, where's Anne? Oh, she died last night. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Got any gear? It was the normal red flags that I think sensible people would have paid attention to. I didn't. And as a result, just drifted further and further away from the center of society, and was now becoming the sort of people that I see nowadays. And I can tell from 200 yards, you've got an addiction problem. But at the time, I thought I couldn't understand why people didn't want to let me in their shops and didn't want me didn't trust me. I couldn't understand it. What's wrong with you? But lost all awareness of what I came across like, and the fact that I was covered in blood or whatever. Yeah.
It sounds like that very much became your normality. But before we talk about what happened as a result of that and what happened with your relationships and things like that afterwards, let's play your next song, which is Let the Heartaches Begin by Long John Baldry, is it?
It is Long John Baldry. Long John Baldry used to attend a club I used to go to in Queensway, and he offered me a brandy to sit on his knee, and one of the best brandies I've ever had in my life. I've always loved this song. I loved his voice before, and I've always thought he was an underrated. I thought he didn't quite get the credit he deserved, but I've always loved this song. Yeah.
I can hear the guitar start to play, and very soon they say I was a fool to turn my love away. And with each glass of wine I feel a glow, and very soon I know I was a fool to let my baby go. So let the heartaches begin. I can't help it, I can't win. I've lost that girl for sure. Tears won't help anymore. Yes, let the heartaches begin. I can't help it, I can't win. I've lost that girl for sure. Now she's gone, I can't hold back the tears anymore. I see the couples dancing through the night. They hold each other tight as they dance on and on till the morning light. The soft embraces that they seem to share just make me feel aware of the loneliness I find so hard to bear. So let the heartaches begin. I can't help it, I can't win. I've lost that girl for sure. Her tears won't help anymore. Yes, let the heartaches begin. I just can't help it. You know that I just can't win. I've lost that girl for sure. And now that she's gone, I can't hold back the tears anymore.
listening to Recovery Now Radio. Let's recover together. And that was Let the Heartaches Begin by Long John Baldry. Wow, Chip, you gave us so much information just before that song. You talked about not being a part of society eventually and the progression of your drug taking. In your bio that you sent to us, you talk about your lowest point being when you were homeless for several years. Could you describe some of that to us, please?
Yeah, sure. I mean, in those days, I think in the time I was using, it was quite easy to find squats. So street homeless, I should think probably for about a month, but lots of derelict buildings. They were rebuilding the whole of West London. It was very, very easy to find places to sleep and places with roofs. Without a home, for sure. As I said, street homeless only for about a month, but hostels, sort of, when I say hostels, I mean sort of seven beds to a room type thing, and you're out in the morning at 9 o'clock. And but a lot of derelict buildings, a lot of squats, which was very common in those days, but nowhere really secure or safe, and never had that actually until I got into recovery. But it just made you feel separate from everybody else. It just made everything feel like hard work, and and it was, I can see now in retrospect it was all of my own doing. However, again, that was it wasn't unusual. The fact that people were living in, I had a beautiful squat once in Notting Hill Gate that I think the Beckhams eventually bought, but not when I was living in it. But I mean, there were so many empty properties. It wasn't difficult to find somewhere to put your head down that was safe and dry. Whether there was good plumbing or not was a different matter. That was a different thing altogether. But I can remember once I found this derelict building underneath the Westway, and one of my people I knew said, are you okay for someone to live? I'm like, yeah, sure. No, I've got somewhere to live. I'm fine. I've got, and I had to crawl through this little hole in the concrete to get into the side. But once you were in, lovely big rooms. It was a lovely place, and we just sort of used the floorboards for firewood and anyway. It was a very kind of nomadic, rough and ready lifestyle, but you kind of got used to it. Everybody I knew did it, so it didn't feel like, oh my God, what on earth are you doing? Because I didn't mix at all with people who weren't doing that. I would look at them, I would actually look at them and pity them, and I would think, look at you all off to your jobs, scurrying along, working for the man. I was a great sort of soapbox socialist, I'm all right, I've got freedom, I know I can do what I want whenever I want. You're all trapped in the kind of capitalist system, and and all that, and all I was doing really was sitting on a bench waiting for somebody to come and give me a packet of gear, and I had no freedom at all really, because I was completely trapped by my drug addiction. And I guess it's all of this is further compounding your lack of connection. Completely and utterly disconnected. Yeah, I mean, really had moved from being in an incredibly privileged position right to the edge of society, right to the edge where people were literally, you can't come in here, you're banned from here, you're not allowed in this shop, don't come in this shop, just absolutely on the edges of society, and well known by the police. Local police when the local police know you by your Christian name, it's a bad sign, very bad sign. And constantly getting kind of picked up, and again, criminal record building up, fraud, and bit of lots and lots of burglary, and somehow getting away with it. Well, not until I didn't always get it. There was a point when I didn't get away with it, but it just felt like everybody I knew did it, and so it didn't feel extraordinary. We just created this little, I guess, a little gang or tribe of users, and we all did exactly the same thing. So it didn't feel really, really odd. It only felt odd when you were in connection with normal people, which didn't really happen that often. In those days, you could be homeless and still get benefits. There was a queue called the NFA for no fixed abode, and you could be homeless and still get benefits. So yeah, it just felt normal, and that's what it was like, and that whole kind of once a junkie, always a junkie, we all believed that, and that was borne out by our experiences. And so,
yeah,
but no, very disconnected and no hope.
No hope. Yeah. That's the key thing, isn't it? No hope. And I'd like to talk to you a bit more about that in a second. But if it's okay with you, we'll play your next song, which is Handbags and Gladrags by Chris Farlowe. What inspires you with this song?
Loved Chris Farlowe. I think he's the greatest singer ever. And this particular song does represent a bit of a time when life wasn't too bad, but I've always loved this song. It always makes me sad, but I think he is a hugely underrated singer.
Ever seen a blind man cross the road, trying to make the other side? Ever seen a young girl growing old, trying to make herself a bride? So what becomes of you, my love, when they have finally stripped you of the handbags and the glad rags that your granddad's had to sweat so you could buy? Bye-bye. Once I was a young man and I thought all I had to do was smile. Baby, you are still a young girl and you bought everything in style. But once you think you're in, you're out. Cause you don't mean a thing without the handbags and the glad rags that your granddads had to sweat so you could buy. Baby, bye-bye. Song of sixpence for your sake and take a bottle full of rye. 4 and 20 blackbirds in a cake, bake them all in a pie. They told me you missed school today, so I suggest you just throw away the handbags and the glad rags that your granddad's had to sweat so you could buy. Hey, hey, baby, they told me you missed school today, so I suggest you just throw them all away. The handbags and the glad rags that your granddad's had to sweat so you could buy. Baby, bye-bye. Oh, bye-bye.
You're listening to Recovery Now Radio. Let's recover together. And that was Handbags and Gladrags by Chris Farlowe. We were talking about hope just now, Chip, or a lack of it. And at one stage, you found yourself in prison for a period of time. Could you tell me a little bit about that and then what happened on your release?
Yeah, sure. I mean, that was just the general progression of trying to be a gangster and eventually having evaded prison for years when I should have been really got involved in a robbery with a gun, and I knew was going to go down, but actually looked on my appearance at the Old Bailey as kind of like the graduation. I'd become a proper gangster. I was at the Old Bailey, and that was it. Anyway, got weighed off for 3 years, and I was really, really lucky in that my first night there, I was banged up with somebody who was quite powerful in the prison system, and they discovered that I could read and write, and I had this kind of really sort of almost stereotypical kind of I suddenly found a role for myself. I was writing letters, appeals, and I managed to get through my prison time doing that kind of thing. And I look back on it, it probably saved my life. If I hadn't been taken out of the system, fed properly, allowed to rest, I don't think I would have been here. I mean, besides recovery, that opportunity to be banged up for 18 months gave me a chance to kind of get my body back together again into some sort of shape. But I was sort of protected throughout my time there. And then on my release, having thought about it, I decided that drugs probably really weren't the thing. So I started drinking straight away. And so once again, find myself back on a bench in Notting Hill Gate, looking at everybody trotting along to work, thinking, you muppets, look at you all, with half a bottle of vodka in my pocket, or a special brew, or a Supertenant's. Other strong lagers are available, I'm sure. All I wanted to do was just get ripped all day long. What was I going to do? I had nothing, you know. So I had a daughter by this time. She was 7 years old, and doing a lousy job of being a father. And she, you know, had a very traumatic time as a result. But just not changing my lifestyle at all, not thinking, oh my God, Chip, you've just been in prison. This is time to get your act together. Just going straight back within an hour to what I was doing before.
Yeah, and you tell an interesting story about bumping into somebody that you knew who had told you that, or who appeared to look much better than you remembered seeing him. He used the words to you, I stopped using, and the words get help. So how did that impact on you, and how did you suddenly enable yourself to be able to get help?
Well, it wasn't like an epiphany, but without doubt, seeing him, who I had lived in a squat with and I'd used with, I knew exactly how bad he had been. He looked amazing. And so he kind of, it wasn't an instant thing. It was very challenging because, as I said, I was a soapbox junkie. I knew everything. And suddenly there was somebody who was saying, I don't use drugs and my life got a lot better. So, but by this stage, I'd been using for the best part of 20 years. And so the idea of change was incredibly scary. So on one hand, I kind of wanted it, but on the other hand, I was absolutely scared stiff of doing it. And so I spent 6 months sort of pondering about what I should do. And then a friend of mine said, look, there's this rehab, which rehabs were just beginning to kind of they'd been around about 4 years. And in those days, I'm again incredibly lucky. I decided I wanted to give it a go. And I rang up this place and they said, come in. And it was as easy as that. It was so easy. And I went to this rehab in Wiltshire, and I don't know why, but within 4 days of probably one of the worst detoxes I've ever been given, but that's another story. I don't know. I just sort of thought, I don't know what the future holds. It looks pretty difficult. It looks pretty peculiar, but it looks a lot better than where I've been for the last 20 years. So I'm going to give it a go. And from that moment, I've never used again. And I've never wanted to use again. And it was like a pivotal moment. And I know how lucky I am to have been wanting to get clean at a time when you could literally just walk into a rehab and get a place. And I know that nowadays that is not the case at all. Basically, rehab is for people with money now, and that's it. You ain't going to get rehab. But it made a huge difference to me. It gave me a structure for my life. It introduced me to self-help groups. It introduced me to, and I just came out and I was so excited about life. I was just having friends, people to talk to, people who weren't going out on the rob every day, people who just wanted to talk. It was just, there was a slight pioneering kind of element to it. Not everybody there were very few people getting clean. I mean, there had been a few concept houses which weren't very successful, but people were beginning to get clean, and I was having fun. I was doing things that felt fun, and that's what kept me going. And I just threw myself into the recovery process, and I kind of did pretty much everything I was told, except not to have relationships, of course. But I mean, other than that, I did pretty much what I was told. And I started to really, really love life. It was such a contrast to my using, and I wanted it badly. Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess that's the key. You wanted it. As well as needing it, you wanted it.
I did. Yeah. I really. I mean, the old cliche, you could have told me to do anything. I'm not sure you could have told me to do anything, but I really wanted to get clean. Yeah.
Well, your next song is So Sad, the Song by Gladys Knight and the Pips. Why did you choose this one?
This song was very representative of a very, very low point in my life when I was using. It's a very melancholy song, and it just represents the kind of loneliness I felt. But I've always loved it as a song. But it was definitely representative of a bad time in my using. Yeah, I'd listen to this a lot.
It's better in dead and yet. So sad, the song of two empty lives, when that moment of truth suddenly arrives. And so sad the song of what might have been. You see, a lifetime of dreams scattered in the wind. Together we belong, together, and never was that one lovely road easier to say. Just one more try. So sad, the song that says goodbye. The song that says goodbye.
You're listening to Recovery Now Radio. Let's recover together. What a beautiful song that was. So Sad, the song, Gladys Knight and the Pips. So Chip, wow, you've taken us on such a roller coaster so far. Some of the worst times of your life, and now we get to the good bit, my favorite part, recovery.
Yep.
And then you talk in your bio about after rehab, wanting to make recovery your next career. Tell us how you got there.
I had been a very good student in rehab, and I kind of liked group therapy, and one of the therapists there towards the end of my time said, you've got a bit of a knack for this. I don't know what it is, but if I were you, I'd think about eventually doing it as a career. But before you do that, go off and live life for a bit. And so I went off and I cleaned carpets for a year and learned all about life, and learned that cleaning carpets isn't the greatest job in the world. But anyway, it just got me out, hard work. It made me realize I could be reliable, punctual, hardworking, all the things I never thought I was. And then
interacting with people as well, I guess.
Yeah, well, oddly for a burglar, people would, I would arrive with my carpet cleaning equipment, and they'd go, okay, see you in 3 hours. And then they would leave me in the house on my own, which for a burglar was a very strange experience. I mean, I would have a little rummage around, but I never stole anything. But I mean, it was just odd to be suddenly left sort of 4 months clean in somebody's house to clean the car. Yeah, so I did that for a year, and then I started volunteering and learning my craft at the same time, starting a degree course and just learning everything that I should. And eventually started working in a rehab, and I've done that for the rest of my career in one form or another. I've done it for 36 years now, and I've loved every minute of it. I've really enjoyed it. I love seeing the change in people. I love helping people. It's one of the few places where you can really see the change in people so dramatically. You have to accept that you're dealing with the fact that not everybody's going to get it, and a lot of people don't get it. But if you treat everybody, I've got this quote that has always lived with me is, if you treat an individual as he is, he will remain how he is. But if you treat him as if he were what he ought to be and could be, he will become what he ought to be and could be. And I've always kind of lived my life with that, my work with that kind of thing. Treat people as if they have some ability and they've got they've got a future. And I've loved my work. I've absolutely loved my work. And I've, eventually, having worked with other people, I opened my own rehab, and we ran that for 20 years in Bury St Edmunds, and I loved doing that, and that was very successful. Well, not financially, but it was I was very proud of it as a concept. And I can't tell you, I've loved every minute of my work. I seem to have done all right, and that's it. And it's just a brilliant opportunity to see people change and to use your experience to help other people. That lived experience is so helpful. This is a condition that responds so well to being treated by people with lived experience. And I try and use that as much as I possibly can.
I guess, because I'm fairly new into recovery myself,
Right.
but I guess seeing the light come back on in people's eyes must be so rewarding.
It's incredible. I mean, you can see somebody literally on their knees walking or crawling into rehab, and then 2 months later, you can see them with their family, with hope. And hopefully, if you've treated them with respect and you've treated them with care, even if they don't get it the first time, if you've shown them love and respect, they will come back to you and they will try again.
The seed has been planted, hasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's important. Not everybody's going to get it the first time. That's unrealistic. But the ability to see people and I still see, yesterday, somebody I had a rehab with 17 years clean, contacted me to say thank you. And God, that sort of stuff is stuff of dreams. I mean, I never thought that I would be useful, and I hope I have been in my career. I hope I have been. And
well, I've only met you today, but I'm absolutely sure you have been.
Thank you.
Talking about usefulness, After your next song, we'll talk about being more productive and being of service to others and things like that, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sure.
But your next song is Wake Up Everybody by Harold, Melvin and the Bluenotes.
Yes, this is, I find it incredible that it is in my lifetime that civil rights have only just become kind of law. In my lifetime, it's incredible. And this was a song that kind of epitomized that great struggle that we took up, we played our part in England as much as we could. Grosvenor Square riots and things like that, although that was against the Vietnam War. But, there was an awareness that we needed to make changes. And this song was all about that kind of change that really needed to happen. Yeah.
Wake up, everybody, no more sleeping in bed. No more backward thinking, time for thinking ahead. The world has changed so very much from what it used to be. There's so much hatred, war and poverty. Wake up all the teachers, time to teach a new way. Maybe then they'll listen to what you have to say. 'Cause they're the ones who's coming up and the world is in their hands. When you teach the children, teach them the very best you can. The world won't get no better if we just let it be. Na 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 na. The world won't get no better. We gotta change it now, just you and me. Wake up all the doctors, make the old people well. They're the ones who suffer and who catch all the hair. But they don't have so very long before their judgment day. So won't you make them happy before they pass away? Wake up all the builders, time to build a new land. I know we could do it if we all lend a hand. The only thing we have to do is put it in our minds. Surely things will work out, they do it every time. The world won't get no better if we just let it be. Na, 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 na. The world won't get no better. We gotta change it now, just you and me. Yeah. Change it, yeah, change it, yeah, just you and me. Change it, yeah, change it. Can't do it alone, can't do it alone. Need some help, y'all, y'all. Can't do it alone, can't do it alone. Yeah, yeah. Wake up, everybody. Wake up, everybody. Need a little help, y'all. Yes, I do. Need a little help. Say it, boy. Need some help, y'all. Change the world, what it used to be. Yeah. Can't do it alone. Can't do it alone. Need some help, yeah. Need some help, yeah. Wake up, everybody. Get up, get up, get up, get up. Wake up.
You're listening to Recovery Now Radio. Let's recover together. And that was Wake Up Everybody by Harold, Melvin and the Bluenotes. Chip, we were talking about, like, wow, your own rehab, in particular, being of service to others. And what I wanted to ask you was, just because it's a particular interest to me, that I now feel useful to people and more productive, and my self-esteem is better. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to ask you, like, being of service to others, what has that done for you?
It has just made me feel useful. It's made me feel, I feel it balances the books. For 20 years, I was a menace to society. I was absolutely produced nothing of any value to society at all. And I do feel that there is a debt to pay. I need to balance the books. And I have tried through my career, through things I've done with other people, other agencies, other places, to try and balance the books so that I can. It sounds a bit sort of pretentious, but, you know, I want to leave a legacy. I will be able to leave a legacy now that is very different to the legacy I would have left when I first got clean. I can leave a legacy that said this man was of some use and he helped some people. And that's really important to me. And it's important to the fact that my son is so proud of me and the fact that he's proud of my recovery, that really warms my heart. And it just, there's something about giving back what was given to me freely. You know, stuff was, and I do have a bit of an opinion about people who just grab recovery and then disappear and you never see them again. I was given recovery because people went out of their way freely to offer me support and help. And I have a life and I owe that debt, and I hope I keep on paying it. And I hope I never forget that the reason I'm here today is because of the help of other people. And I want to continue that. And it's given me so much self-esteem and confidence and faith in myself and my ability. And I enjoy it so much as well. It doesn't feel like an arduous task. I enjoy doing it. Yeah, I think it's important to give back.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, your quality of life has dramatically improved.
Dramatically improved, yeah. I was asked to write a list of things that I wanted about a year into recovery, and I wrote this list and I thought, that is the stupidest list you've ever written in your life, because it said things like, you know, be married, own a house, you know, have a job, travel, do this, the very first list I wrote said have a Sony Walkman. That gives you an idea about where it was. But, you know, eventually I wrote this list. I thought, that is the stupid, and I've achieved everything I wanted to do in life except see the Northern Lights. Except for that, I've achieved everything I wanted in life. I've got a house, I've got a wife, I've got a beautiful son, I've got a daughter, I've got a great job, I've got everything I want. I've got everything I want.
The message of hope is just there, isn't it?
Oh my God, and do you know what? I've had to work hard. I've had to work hard, but using's hard work. You know, don't ever think that using isn't, you know, using's bloody hard work. You know, it's 12 hours of graft for about half an hour of pleasure, if you're lucky. Using's really, really hard work. So anybody who says, oh, you know, and it's just sit around doing it, they don't. They're at, I mean, maybe nowadays it's a bit easier. You just use a mobile phone. But I mean, I think I'm very, very happy with my life, and it's like everything I've got in my life is things I knew. I would have told you at some point, there's no way that's happening. There's no way that you're going to be able to do that. And it's happened. And then something else, I say, well, there's no way that's going to happen. And then that's happened. Well, this isn't going to happen. And every time I've said that, it's always happened.
Yeah, I'm told it just keeps getting better.
It does. And they're not wrong. If you keep doing the work, it does keep getting better. It does keep getting better. I'm a great believer in that. And my life still keeps getting better. So
brilliant.
Yeah.
And what a message for everybody to hear, you know, that things can change. Your next song is Gotta Serve Somebody by Bob Dylan. Tell me about this one.
Well, you couldn't have a list of records without a Bob Dylan song. This is just one of thousands I could have chosen. I mean, he just has been so much part of my life, and still is. I think he's the greatest ever artist, and can't possibly include him, not have a list and not include him. Yeah, it would be impossible.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, thanks.
You may be the heavyweight champion of the world. You may be a socialite with a long string of pearls, but you're gonna have to serve somebody. Yes, indeed, you're gonna have to serve somebody. Well, it may be the devil or it may be the Lord, but you're gonna have to serve somebody. rock and roll addict prancing on the stage. Money, drugs at your command, women in a cage. You may be a businessman or some high degree thief. They may call you doctor, or they may call you chief, but you're gonna have to serve somebody. Yes, you are. You're gonna have to serve somebody.
Serve somebody.
Well, it may be the devil or it may be the Lord, but you're gonna have to serve somebody.
Serve somebody.
You may be a state trooper, it might be a young Turk, maybe the head of some bigger TV network. You may be rich or poor, you may be blind or lame, maybe living in another country under another name, but you're gonna have to serve somebody. Yes, you are. You're gonna have to serve somebody.
Serve somebody.
Well, it may be the devil or it may be the Lord, but you're gonna have to serve somebody.
Serve somebody.
Maybe you're a construction worker working on a home. Might be living in a mansion, you might live in a dome. You may own guns and you may even own tanks. You may be somebody's landlord, you may even own banks, but you're gonna have to serve somebody.
Serve
Yes, you're gonna
somebody.
have to serve somebody.
Serve somebody.
Well, it may be the devil or it may be the Lord, but you're gonna have to serve somebody.
Serve somebody.
You may be a preacher, spiritual pride. Maybe a city councilman taking bribes on the side. Maybe working in a barber shop, you may know how to cut hair. You may be somebody's mistress, maybe somebody's heir, but you're gonna have to serve somebody. Yes, you're gonna have to serve somebody.
Serve somebody.
Well, it may be the devil or it may be the Lord, but you're gonna have to serve somebody.
Serve somebody.
Might like to wear cotton, might like to wear silk, might like to drink whiskey, might like to drink milk, might like to eat caviar, you might like to eat bread. Maybe sleeping on the floor, sleeping in a king-size bed, but you're gonna have to serve somebody. Yes, indeed, you're gonna have to serve somebody.
Serve somebody.
Well, it may be the devil or it may be the Lord, but you're gonna have to serve somebody. Now, you may call me Terry, or you may call me Timmy. You may call me Bobby, or you may call me Zimmy. You may call me RJ, you may call me Ray. You may call me anything, no matter what you say, you're still gonna have to serve somebody.
Serve somebody.
Yes, you're gonna have to serve somebody.
Serve somebody.
Well, it may be the devil, and it may be the Lord, but you're gonna have to serve somebody.
You're listening to Recovery Now Radio. Let's recover together. And that was Gotta Serve Somebody by Bob Dylan. How apt was that song? Just when we were talking about serving others.
Yeah.
Along comes Bob. Perfect. Your story has just blown me away, Chick, to be honest with you. What an inspiration and how miraculous your turnaround has been. I wanted to ask you before we've got a little bit more to talk about before your last song, but I wanted to ask you about your relationship to other people And how has that changed since you've stopped using?
Well, I can talk to them now. I can. I'm not looking at them to see what they could have or what they've got that I wanted. I mean, any conversation I had with anybody when I was using, I'd be looking at what if you got a watch, you got a wallet, you're going to leave lying around. It was like now I can actually talk to people authentically. My relationship with my daughter obviously has improved. She was obviously damaged by my behavior when she was growing up. I have an incredible relationship with my son, who is a gift just true gift of life. But I just am able to be myself. I feel that I've got a kind of, I just like being part of life. I live in a little tiny village here. We all know each other, but I need to get away sometimes and get a bit of activity and get a bit of city life. So I go to London for 2 or 3 days a week. I just find people fascinating. I love life. I love I never thought I would be every morning waking up. Thank God I've woken up again. I've got another day of life left, and it's not been taken away from me in the night. I just love communicating with people and knowing that there's other people who share that same mad stuff that goes on inside our heads, that there's other people who I can share that with and they will understand. I mean, there's people who live in this village. If I talked about what went on in my head, they'd think I was mad, but I can talk to
you and me both.
Yeah, I can go to a meeting, which I'll probably do a self-help meeting later on this evening, and I know whatever madness is in my head, somebody will go, "Oh God, yeah, I really, I get that." I can, and it's lovely to have a place where I feel I belong and I feel I'm part of it, and belonging. I feel I belong, which I'd never ever felt before. When I was using, I belonged to a group of people who all used, but none of them were helpful, or they weren't. I'd call them my friends, but they weren't. But now I have genuine friends. I've got a little sort of secret army of probably about 10 people who I know I could call at any time, day or night, and they would be there for me. And I hope the reverse would be the case as well. And that's a lovely feeling. I mean, that from the loneliness I felt from when I was young throughout my using to a place where I know that I'm never alone. I can be alone, but I'm never alone, and I find that I just find that lovely to be part of life, part of this, because we don't get long here, and I'm really noticing that my time's ticking away, and I love life, and I want to be here for as long as possible. Yeah.
So it sounds like a silly question, but do you like being you now?
I love being me now. I really enjoy myself. I mean, I hated myself before, but I'm all right. I'm okay. I've got my, I'm oversensitive and I'm impatient and I'm probably a bit contrite. But I'm all right. I'm not. It's not the end of the world if I'm oversensitive or that. I'm not an unpleasant person. I don't think I'm an unkind person. Which is in sharp contrast to what I was like when I was using. So,
and how wonderful is it to be able to say that as well?
And not feel that my father's was, stop showing off. I'm all right. I'm an okay person. I feel like I'm a nice person to know, and I'm kind to people as best I can be. Yeah.
Excellent. You did say that you've slowed down somewhat. Can you tell us what you're doing at the moment? What's life like for you now?
I run a podcast called Soberful, which is there free for anybody who's in recovery. It's available online, and there's about 150 episodes. I thought it was going to be about 3 episodes, but it's gone on and on and on, and that's available to anybody in recovery. So I do that, which takes up a few hours a week. I do a private practice in London 2 days a week, and I do sort of lectures and talks to universities and schools and things like that. But I suppose, having worked full time for years for all my recovery, really, I now do probably 3.5 days a week working. But that's okay. I don't want to stop working. I mean, the podcast, which is, I think, a great tool for people in early recovery, is at www.somebodycharles.com. Soberful, SOBERFUL.com, and there's 152 episodes there, and you can pick and choose, and there's all sorts of things about early recovery, anxiety, how to talk to people, you know, how to get over withdrawal, all sorts of any aspect about recovery you could think of, trauma, how to get over trauma, how to deal with things like that, how to deal with the first 30 days. It's free. Anybody can listen to it whenever they want. And I think
brilliant.
I think it's quite a good tool for people.
Yeah. So you're a pro at this then. You can teach us.
You know, you get trotted out occasionally to do things. Yeah.
Well, before we play your last song, I want to thank everybody for tuning in, all the listeners. I want to thank the Living Room and Adveriad for enabling us to be able to do this. But most of all, Chip, like, what a privilege to be able to have met you today and heard your personal story. And what an inspiration for me, you know? I'm just 15 months in myself.
Never say just or only 15 months. Never say that, because 15 months is bloody brilliant. Don't ever say just. Don't ever say just.
My life has changed like dramatically in the past year. And listening to you as just like, I was a bit tired when we came. I don't know if you noticed earlier, I was a bit tired.
Yes, we did, yeah.
But you've really inspired me today, and I'm so pleased I got to meet you. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks.
Your last song is it La
Mer? Yeah.
By Charles Trenet. Tell me about this.
This is a song I've loved all my life. It's going to be played at my funeral, but it's also a nod to my wife, who's French, and it just so happens that it's a song I've loved all my life, but it'll be at my death as well. I love it.
Le long des golfes clairs, à des reflets d'argent, la mer, des reflets changeants sous la pluie. La mer, qu'au ciel d'été confond ses blancs moutons avec les anges si purs. La mer, bergère d'azur infinie. Voyez, près des étangs, ces grands roseaux mouillés. Voyez, ces oiseaux blancs et ces maisons rouillées. La mer les a bercés le long des golfes clairs et d'une chanson d'amour. La mer a bercé mon cœur pour la vie. La mer qu'on voit danser le long des golfes clairs à des reflets d'argent. La mer, des reflets changeants sous la pluie. La mer, au ciel d'été, confond ses blancs moutons avec les anges si purs. La mer, bergère d'azur infinie. Près des étangs, ces grands roseaux mouillés. Voyez, ces oiseaux blancs et ces maisons rouillées. La mer, elle les a bercés le long des golfes clairs. C'est mon cœur pour la vie.